In thinking about methods, there are essentially two types or two methods that, two general types of methods. You can either take notes manually, right, using pen, paper, pencil, note card, right, using your hands to actually write it out with a writing utensil, or you can do it by computer. So, a couple of things to think about with that. When it comes to manual note-taking, right, I'm using a pen or a pencil and I'm writing it on a physical paper or a note card or something like that. There are a couple of reasons why manual note-taking might be useful. First of all, right, you already have the skills needed to write. Now, a lot of us, of course, today have a lot of skills related to computers as well, but when it comes to note-taking, it might be a little bit, we'd have to learn some things. But manual note-taking could be useful because you already have the skills to write. Secondly, of course, you have the ability, the flexibility of being able to take your notes anywhere. Again, that's something you can do with computers these days too, but again, that's something you don't have to be tied to a library or something like that. But again, a lot of those things can be done by computer as well, but the third thing that is helpful when it comes to manual note-taking that is often overlooked is what's known as cognitive reinforcement. Studies have been done that demonstrate that note-taking by hand leads to better remembering of information, whether that's in a class like this or whether that's note-taking for research. There is something about using your brain and your hand at the same time writing down information where it transmits and it's better retained. And so if you go the manual note-taking route, it probably would be the case where, having done that, you can remember better. Oh, I've read that somewhere already. Manual note-taking tends to be, most people tend to use either note cards or pieces of paper. And there are a couple of things, of course, that would be useful. First, putting direct quotations on a note card or piece of paper. Things as well like summaries or paraphrases. As before, no matter what manual or what method you are using, you want to distinguish what are your words, what are the source's words. And so if you summarize or paraphrase, make sure you've noted that somehow. But it might be you're taking this particular journal article, you're writing some note cards on it, and so you put the bibliographic information on the card, and then you put a Q, or here's a quotation, or a P for paraphrase, or S for summary. Other information you might want to include, of course, would be your own comments on this. Right? This is a ridiculous idea. Or this is a very important point. In all of this, as we've said, you want to clearly distinguish which is which. But one thing to keep in mind as well is that ultimately all of this should be brief. Because a lot of your comments, your ideas, that is what you're going to work into your paper. So just a couple brief comments, a brief quotation. Your research paper shouldn't include these huge blocks of text, and where you have these huge, like, 10-line quote from some source. But then often, again, for people that use note cards, you're just putting a little bit, maybe a quote or a summary on each card. You might have 7, 8 cards for a specific source. Or you might have 3 or 4 pieces of paper. So, again, what could be the use for this? Why would you want to consider doing this? Well, first of all, people that use cards, like note cards, find that you can organize them pretty easily. So if you're taking notes and just include a little bit of information on each card, you can, let's say you're doing the paper on the woman taken in adultery, and in one section you want to talk about the manuscript evidence. Okay? Well, different sources are going to have different information about that manuscript evidence, and so once you've taken your cards on each of the sources you're looking at, you can pull out all of the note cards that's specifically related to manuscript evidence. And there you can put them all together. Right? Manuscript evidence. These deal with the plot of John chapter 8. These deal with authorship issues. These deal with depictions of Jesus. And so by having brief information on these cards, you can put them all together. And so this source talks about this, and here's another source that talks about something similar, which allows you to kind of integrate these sources together instead of having like, I'm going to talk about this source now, I'm going to talk about this source now, I'm going to talk about this source now. You can work it better to bring all of those together. Additionally, the card method or paper could help you organize your paper. And so as you kind of group the cards by topic, for example, you might say, oh, I can talk about this information first. And then I talk about this information second. I move on to this information third. And of course, going the card route, index cards tend to be very easy to carry around with you. So I know I'm going to have a couple minutes between these two classes. I'll bring the cards with me, and I'll work on organizing between the two classes I have. Now again, within the concept of manual note-taking, you might work up a method that is best for you with the number of color-coded cards, or there might be all sorts of things that you develop that is best for you, right? Abbreviations that work for you, so you remember. All right, if I got Q as a quotation, if P is a paragraph. If I use pink cards, that is related to this subject. If I use orange cards, it's related to such and such. Okay? So you might develop a method within that, but those are some of the things to keep in mind if you go the manual route. Any questions? Anything we need to clarify with that? All right, let's talk about computer note-taking. Now, computer note-taking, there are a couple of ways that you can go about taking notes on a computer or a tablet. First, of course, probably immediately comes to a lot of people's minds are word processing programs. The Microsoft Word, using Pages. There's a variety of word processing programs out there, and much like you would record information on a physical sheet of paper, you could just use a Word document and include all the information. But there are some other options as well. There are certain software programs which are meant to help in taking notes. Software like Zotero, EndNote, RefWorks, some of which are free, some of which have a free version, and then there's a premium version. These help you organize electronically information and sources. Some of which, if you are, if you have some of these programs and you're browsing, you can just click a button and it'll automatically record the information or the URL of the website you're looking at. So reference software might be something. One of the things that can be a challenge when it comes to reference software, and even some of our online databases, there are options there that help you cite that information. Right? And so if you're looking up the online, if you're looking up the ATLA database, for example, there is an option that says cite. You can click on that, and it will give you the options for the different handles. Right? If you're doing MLA, this is how you would cite it. If it's APA, this is how you would cite it. If it's Chicago, that's how you would cite it. Most of the time, SBL is not on it. And so you would want to look at the program and say, okay, is this something that will do SBL, or at least help me with SBL? Right, so computer note-taking can be done with word processing. It can be done with reference software. It can be done with spreadsheets. There are other computer programs out there that are good. And so it doesn't just have to be a Microsoft Word document. There's a lot of options out there today, some of which you might find more useful and other people wouldn't. And so if you think, well, I want to go the computer route, well, investigate some of these other things. There might be something there that would be helpful to you. A couple things to keep in mind if you go the computer note-taking route. First of all, is the same information is needed whether you manually take it down or you type it on your iPad. All right, so make sure you're getting all that information that we've talked about. Computer note-taking, of course, is very handy for copying and pasting. So that if you are, working in a Microsoft Word document and you're, all right, I'm going to write down all the stuff related to this source, and I want to put down this quote in my document when I'm getting ready to write my paper, instead of having to type it all out because I've written it on a note card, I can just select copy paste. Okay. One of the things, of course, you can do, of course, is if you're using a web page, copy and paste into your notes. But again, you want to be careful. Quotation, paraphrase, right? Remember what you're doing. But that's something that is a benefit of computer note-taking that isn't available when you do it manually. In previous decades, of course, the limit would be, a computer keeps you pretty bound to certain places. But with the cloud, with portable media, just like you could go anywhere with your note cards, you can go anywhere with your iPad. Now, obviously, in some cases, you might need internet access or you might need Wi-Fi access. But in other cases, of course, you can, if you have all your information just locally stored on your tablet or your laptop, you can go pretty much anywhere. And so that is one of the benefits, is that you can find time. All right, I've got 20 minutes here. I can work on something, organizing some things, writing my paper. I don't have to be limited to a library like people in previous decades would have to be. And then, of course, with online books, other types of electronic sources, I don't have to, sit in the library in those kind of cases, or actually go to a library in some cases. I can be anywhere I have internet access. One thing, of course, with any sort of computer note-taking is you want to have some sort of backup, whether that's the cloud, whether that's putting it on a jump drive. Keep that in mind. Now, yes, your cards could get damaged if somebody knocks their coffee onto them, or they, fly out the window as you're driving down Atlanta Highway. Right? So, obviously, you can lose information either way, but keep that in mind that you either have your cloud backup on, or you're saving to a jump drive or something like that. So in all of this, of course, there are some important things to keep in mind with respect to notes. You take notes to record important information. This is what I want to come back to. This is going to be useful to me. Without recording that, you're going to have to base it on your memory. So taking notes, no matter which way you do it, is very important so that you have, when it's time to write your paper, the information you need. Furthermore, taking notes helps you remember what you have read, instead of trying to, the night before the paper's due, trying to say, okay, I read something somewhere, and they said something good that I think I want to use, and so now I have to go back through and look through all my sources because I don't remember what I read or where I read it. Note-taking as well helps you organize your thoughts the paper organization, what information you need to include, what information, and as you're working on your paper, right, as you're taking notes, it helps you, really focus on what you are wanting to do and what you're wanting to talk about. And then finally, you should take notes to prevent plagiarism. By carefully recording, this is a quote, this is a paraphrase, this is a summary, whatever method you use, this will allow you to prevent plagiarism because you have, right, page numbers, you have, this is a direct quote, right, information that will help you make sure that you're presenting your work with integrity. What questions do you have? Comments? All right, we'll go ahead and finish up their day a little bit early and start talking about different aspects related to the paper itself.